thanks for tuning in. On this episode of Dan's Garage, Dan upgrades the trailer with a fairlead for the winch, and he put a D-ring on the back of the trailer. I wonder what that's for. Let's find out. Hey Dan, run that intro.
Hey Gearheads, thanks for tuning in. As Ashley said, it's time to do some upgrades to the trailer. So we're going to be putting a fairlead on, and that's going to keep the cable in tune with where it needs to be so it doesn't go off to the side and rip up the winch. You'll see what I mean in a minute. We're also putting a tensioner on so the cable doesn't unroll and unravel, because I hate that. And I'm also going to be adding a D-ring to the back and got some other stuff to show you, so let's get to it. So without the fairlead, or whatever it's called, this can basically go wherever it wants. And when I'm pulling something from the side, you can see what it's doing here. It's eating this out. It also doesn't load level. It doesn't go in and out, so it ends up kind of going all over. And I'll show you the fairlead real quick. So you can see how small the opening is in here. So these are in further than the outsides, and these are in further than the roll. So what this will do is the cable will go here, and it's kind of forced to have some pressure against it as it goes in, so that'll keep it going in the right way and kind of rolling back and forth. It also keeps tension on it, and this will keep it from eating out the housing like it's doing there before. So the way I'm going to mount this is I'm going to clean off this workbench, and then we'll start with a clean workbench, then we'll come right back. There we go, now that's better. Okay, so this fairlead, you can mount it from the back, or you can mount it from the bottom. The back is nice and smooth. The bottom, of course, you have these to deal with. So I went out and got some washers so we can level this out. So this would be level when it's down on the trailer, because it will be mounted like this. So we're going to put some washers behind it so it'll be level on the top of the trailer, with however many we need, like that. I'm going to have to get bigger bolts and or longer bolts. And then underneath the trailer, just so I don't have two little pinch points, even though there's not really any kind of force on this, it's just holding the cable where it needs to be. There might be a little sideways force if I'm dragging a car or something like that, but these shouldn't really hold anything. But just because I like to be safe and not overkill things, I got this bar stock, so this is going to go underneath the trailer. I'll drill 2 holes in it, and the bolts will go through here, through the trailer, through the washers in here to keep this level, and then it will sit like that in front of the winch. And that's pretty much it for this project. So first thing I'm going to do is size this and drill out those holes. Okay, now that that is all set, I just need to line this up with where the holes need to be and go ahead and mark it. The holes should probably be in the center, and I could probably just measure it left and right to make sure that it's in the right place. So all I really need to do is figure out the center of this front to back, and then just the center of these center to center, and then I can go ahead and mark them there. Or if it's the same as these, it might be easier to mark these, and it'll be the same as those. If it's the same. Is it the same? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Alright, I'll figure it out. So now I have the plate, so it seemed to me it would make sense to take some of these washers, get the spacing, and put this bolt through. Ooh, this is still hot. Who would have thought? And put the nut on the other side, make sure A, it's level, and then I'll be able to measure out this side. And if you know why that's here, go ahead and comment down below and tag him. So here's the plate I made. So I was trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to mount this, how far in or out. I think this is a good distance. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but that way it's not too much pressure on it when it's all the way down or all the way up. I mean, it's still going to be down lower, but I think that's going to be fine. It's going to be level with those washers I have, so I'm going to mark this off. Then I'll move this out of the way, and I'll use the plate to center up the holes to figure out where I need to drill. And then once I drill them, this will go down underneath the trailer, and this will be up here. Alright, so step one is done. I figured out where I'm going to mount it, and I got the first 2 holes drilled, and I checked underneath to make sure nothing's going to be in the way of mounting the plate, so we're just going to go ahead and run through all those puppies until those 2 holes are as big as those 2 holes. Alright, I got the 2 holes drilled, so we're going to go ahead and put the plate in and make sure that it lines up, because we know this lines up with the winch fairlead. So there we go, should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and I got all the hardware here, so we're going to go ahead and line the whole thing up and tighten up the bolts and see how it looks. This is going to go here, and then under each side we're going to have 3 washers, which is going to level this out. So we can put the washers down here and here. And we have the bolts. Place this on here gently, down in there. Alright. And since I'm by myself, I'm going to put a wrench here and see if it'll hold it as I tighten it with this from underneath. Let's see how that works. Alright, so first we'll get this plate on. Gently so we don't thrust these bolts through. So you can see the idea of putting the plate on, how it's going to strengthen the fairlead. Do I really need it? Probably not, but sometimes when you don't really know what you're doing, you tend to over-engineer or overbuild something. So there may be some of you guys looking at me going, you really don't need that, but there may be some guys going, it's nice to see somebody going the extra mile to make sure that what you're doing is going to work. Either way, I'm doing it. I don't care what anybody says, but I like learning, so you guys put something in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm doing overkill by putting this plate here, or if it's a good idea. Well, I'd say that's pretty sturdy. So I did put a little bit away. Like I said, when this gets down to the bottom, I don't want to put too much pressure on this. I also wanted to leave room for the cover. I don't think this is going to hinder how far the cars can come on. Keep in mind, when I bring the cars real close, I'm using that chain so it goes underneath the suspension. If you were doing something by a bumper, you're going to watch this angle here, but I'm not doing that. And again, I think this is pretty sturdy. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to put the end of the winch cable back on, the hook, and then I got something I'm going to show you at the back of the trailer. So if you've watched my videos on moving these cars, you know that they don't really move very well. They got flat tires, or the brakes are locked up, or it's in park or something like that. So it's hard to get them off the trailer. I've had to back up to a tree, attach the car to the tree, and pull the truck and the trailer out. Well, I got a better idea. So I got this D-ring, and I have the snatch block. So if I hook up the snatch block to the D-ring and run to the front of the car with the winch cable, now the winch is going to be pulling in on the winch cable, but it's going to be pulling the car off the trailer. The idea is that they're not going to roll too well, they're not going to take off on me, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'll have a snatch block or a chock block close by in case that does happen. I doubt it will. But this way, I won't have to really hurt myself getting it off the trailer. Now when I get home, getting it off the trailer, hopefully it'll be rolling because I'll have wheels and tires on it that'll move at that point. So I have another idea for that. That'll be an upcoming episode. But for now, we're going to go ahead and attach this D-ring to the back of the trailer. And if you've noticed, I've offset it from the center of the trailer, figuring that it's going to be here when I'm loading the cars on with the straight winch cable. So that way it's not going to interfere with where the winch cable wants to be normally. So it's going to be offset a little bit. So when people go, why isn't that centered? You know why, and you can answer them in the comments. So comment down below if you think this is a great idea or a dumb idea. But I'm going to keep working even though it's raining, but I'm going to shut you off, put the camera inside so I can show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, the holes are drilled and the rain has slowed down a little bit, so the nice thing about this is I can reach both sides pretty easily. So basically the idea is I took carriage bolts and I ground the end off of them, because this goes up at a pretty high angle, so those will sit flush. That'll be hopefully out of the way of everything else. We got the plate and then just a couple of washers and a nut on the bottom of each one. Nice. Alright, that's tightened up. So now the idea is I can put this here, cable back up front. This won't close, but that's okay. There'll be tension on it. That'll allow me to get the car off of the trailer without hurting myself. So you know how these winches have this free spool ability? One of my buddies said, why don't you just use that when you pull it out to load up these cars? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, because that happens. Now, you got all these bunches up here. When you pull it out, it just gets worse. So we got this. I saw this online on another YouTuber's channel, and this is what we should have had in the first place. And what this is going to do is it's going to go on the back of the winch. It's going to go in place of that back bar there, and this is going to keep spring tension on the spool, so that way it can't unroll the whole thing, and when it's going back on, you're reeling it up, it'll keep pressure on it, which will keep it going in the line and wind it up back and forth exactly where it needs to go. This is falling apart. No, this is Bulldog winch 20234 tensioner, and you can see it down here, so we're going to go ahead and install that. So the first thing we do need to do is unspool all of this cable to get it out of the way, and then we're going to take this back bar off. Hopefully I'll have enough room with this here to get it on, but I got to get all this out of the way first, so let's go ahead and do that. See how easy it is to free spool? So step one is removing this back brace here, and it's just two little bolts that go in, one on either side. Step two is you need to take these 6 screws out and remove the plate from the bar, because we're going to install the bar first. So just 6 screws and nuts on the back. If it's been shipped, they're probably not even tight. You can just loosen them up and pull them right off. And you want to pay attention to how this is on. Note the curve, how it goes on, and how the bolts all go on, because that's going to be important later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put the nut and bolt back on. That way I remember which way they go. Alright, got my light hooked up because it's getting a little dark. Now if you don't have a Bulldog, you have a Smittybilt like I do, and you have these 2 little pins, don't freak out like I just did, because they really just pop right out. So you can pull those off because you don't need those locators. That'll help you fit the bar in between here. And if you are having trouble fitting it between, you may need to loosen this, the mounting, or separate these so you can get this wedged in between here. Or maybe it'll just fit in like that. Yeah, that works. So now we're going to locate this up, and we're going to go ahead and put those bolts back in. I would start both of them before you tighten either one up. Oh crap. Alright, I just did that all backwards. Just kidding. Now, I was wondering how the plate's going to go up against this when I rotate it down, and realized I looked at the directions and I was doing it the wrong way. So we definitely want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So it has to go this way, I think. So the springs are going to be down here. That's not going to work. So I need to put it on this way, I think is the right way. And get that to wedge in there. That does look better for the springs, and then this is actually going to rotate all the way around there, and that's going to tension the springs when we get to that point. And again, tighten them up by hand first, make sure they're threading correctly. Then you can go ahead and grab your socket wrench. Now when you do tighten these all the way, it is just connected to the center bar, so it may start rotating this. You can just grab it, or I guess you can put some other kind of tension on it if you need to make sure that it's tight. Now that this is all good, you can go ahead and cut these zip ties, and then we're going to rotate this into position, and we're going to put a block of wood between it and the center hub here. I'm going to bring something to cut those with. This just holds them on for transport so they don't fall off in the packaging. And then we're just going to use a series of pry bars to get it where it needs to be. Oh, those are flipping around a lot. Let me double check this. I'll be back. Back in the shop now, so as you can see, I bent up the springs a little bit. The problem is the way this fits on the Bulldog winch is there's a piece that goes in between here, so when the spring goes on, it sits in here like this. Now on the Smittybilt I have, it's a lot longer, so this angle does not work, and you can see here there's a little angle that's kind of messed up. So what the plan is going to be is I'm going to hope that I haven't bent this too much out of whack, and I'm going to take this right angle off of here. So I'm going to cut it here, and we're just going to use this straight piece, which I think will lock in better, and that way when I put it on like this, it will fit on the flat piece like this, and this will be supported instead of this being all up in the air and crooked. So if this can be supported, then we'll be able to rotate the bar down and put the plate on it, and it'll hold tension. So the question is going to be, is this bent too far? Or when I rotate this around, is this going to kind of come off like that and get all messed up? But we're not going to know until I cut this off. So we're going to cut this off on each side, this one and that one, and then we're going to try putting it back on. It's too dark to work outside anyway, so I'm going to cut these now, and then we'll go back outside during the daylight. We'll try it and see how it goes. I've taken the other spring, and we put it back where it belongs like this. You can see what I've done is straightened it out. So where this one has the right angle here, this one does not. So I've straightened it out. And we still have this piece here, which I may try to straighten that out as well. And we'll see. Obviously, you don't want to bend metal back and forth too much. It's brittle. It'll snap. But if this will work, I might just cut this piece off, and then we'll just have this supporting it. So the question is going to be, when I mount it on like this, and we bend this piece around, will the spring go ahead and hold the tension without this snapping, and this hold it in? But it got dark out, so we're going to have to wait for the daylight. But I'm going to try and straighten this a little bit so it's at least where it needs to be. And then we'll go ahead and take this other spring, and we'll straighten this out and try to get that angle back so it's basically parallel with that one over here. I'll leave this one on the end bent until we figure out what we're going to do with that. So let's straighten this all out, and we'll go outside when it's light out, and we'll see what it looks like. Back at it here, so we're going to see if what I did works. So I showed you I did this to the springs, and that will allow them to hopefully ride up at the top where they need to, and this will allow me to rotate this around. So I'm going to get this in between here where it needs to be, get one of these bolts started, and we'll go to the other side. I don't know why Smittybuilt doesn't make one of these, or if they do, I'm just not smart enough to find it online. Now, I'm noticing, well, let me see if I get in the right place. Okay, it does make it past, barely makes it past here, so that's one thing we gotta do. These are on the wrong side, so I may have to look at the directions, because it goes here. Maybe I'll have this backwards. I thought it was supposed to go this way with the lip to the back. Or the springs are on the wrong side and they're supposed to go on the back side, not the front side. Because if this was on the back side. I put the springs on the opposite sides. Will that work? It's up here. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Let's see if that works. Yeah, once you have this thing apart, you kind of need to make sure you know how to put it back together, because that's why they have the zip ties on it when you start. I kind of like it with that down, but as long as it holds, I may snip the end off up here. So let's see. Alright, see if I can tighten this up and just hold on to this. Again, I don't think this has to be crazy tight, it just is holding it apart. But it should be alright. Alright, that feels like it's going to work. So, I'm going to get that block of wood back. Where's the block of wood? If I can get it down this much, then we can go ahead and get this in the middle. That'll hold it enough so we can get this plate back on. Now the fun is going to be getting this plate down here with it up against here. I don't have a lot of room to work back here. And you can see how I had put the screw back in so I know which way it goes. So I got it in position and I just got to get the screws in there. But I do want to show you on mine and on some others that I've seen, the bar does go all the way out to the end. So if I let the spring tension go, it's supposed to rest against here, and as soon as this goes by this, it's going to tear it up. So look at how yours mounts. If it mounts on here, you may be okay. If it mounts on the side like this on the Smittybuilt, I'm going to probably have to cut this end off so this has clearance. So just wanted to show you that, and we'll see how it goes when I'm done. Well, that was a big pain in the neck, and mostly because of the trailers right here. If you have full access to the back of your winch, in here it's still a little tight. I did have to use my fancy offset screwdriver. I basically just kept this pry bar in here and kept moving the block of wood one way or the other to get it out of the way of the 6 screws. So now they're in there, and let me get this block out and I'll show you what I did over there. So like I said, I had to notch this out so it didn't hit this bolt. Some of them bolt onto here, so that may not be a problem, but you still want to pay attention, at least on the first reel, where this is. And if you do run your cable all the way out to empty, you might want to just keep an eye on it as you start. Once you get like 1 or 2 runs of wire, or the nylon rope if you have that, this will be out and it shouldn't be a problem. But just keep an eye on it, or notch it like I did, and we should be good. So these are kind of sticking up. So I may decide to just cut these off and leave this here, but we're going to reel this up and see what it looks like when I'm done. So I did wind it up, and it does seem like it's getting caught because I do have too much room over here. You can see the cable goes past the edge over here, so I may just have to put a little lip there to make sure it winds up okay, but that's going to be good for now. And after looking at my D-ring being silver, I decided I was going to paint it black, so I went ahead and threw some paint on it. And I also got a nice fancy D-ring, so that'll connect to that. And I got a new snatch block coming because the one I have is kind of junky. So that went well, except that last part, the tensioner. I cut too much away from it, so if the cable gets past the tensioner, it wants to go up against it. So I think I'm just going to build like a little L bracket for the end of it to keep the cable from going too far over, as long as I have enough room for the extra cable that wouldn't be on that end to reel across the distance of the tube. So people have said that I should think about going with the nylon rope instead of the steel cable. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Tell me if yes, I should definitely do that, or no, that's not really for me, it's more for off-roading or whatever. I don't know, as long as this thing works and doesn't blow up, I'm going to keep using it. But that's it for this episode, so I thank you for watching. Until next time, stay positive and keep on wrenching.